In 1981, Porky's turned a group of young actors into overnight cult icons. But behind the scenes, their real lives unfolded in ways no script could predict. Some left Hollywood forever. Some faced dramatic transformations. Some met heartbreaking ends. Others passed away quietly without many fans ever knowing. You won't believe what happened to them. Dan Monahan as Edward Pee Wee Morris. Dan Monahan became a cult comedy icon when he starred as Edward Pee Wee Morris in Porky's the wildly overconfident teenager whose non-stop obsession with girls created some of the movie's funniest and most unforgettable moments. At 26 years old, Monahan brought explosive comedic energy to the role, turning Pee Wee into the reckless heartbeat of the story. Loud, impulsive, and hilariously optimistic, the character perfectly captured the chaotic teenage humor that defined so many 1980s comedies. Even among Porky's outrageous cast of characters, Pee Wee stood out as the fearless troublemaker, constantly pushing every situation to its absolute limit. Long before Hollywood fame arrived, Monahan had already built a serious background in theater. After studying drama at Ohio University, he performed in regional stage productions and even shared the stage with Al Pacino in a production of Richard III. But everything changed when Porky's became a massive box office success and suddenly transformed him into one of the recognizable young faces of early 1980s teen comedy. Following the film's popularity, Monahan appeared in movies including Only When I Laugh Up the Creek and later The Night Flyer, gradually building a steady acting career throughout the decade. Unlike many stars from that era, Monahan avoided major Hollywood scandals and focused instead on building a stable personal life. In September 1982, he married schoolteacher Sharon Killius, and together they raised a daughter while staying largely away from celebrity drama. Over time, he slowly stepped back from major film roles, choosing family photography, golf, and a quieter lifestyle over chasing fame. As of 2026, Dan Monahan is 71 years old and still alive with an estimated net worth of around $2 million. Dan Monahan's journey stands as a rare Hollywood story where fame never overshadowed personal happiness or inner peace. While many actors spent decades chasing the spotlight, he chose a quieter and more meaningful life, proving that true success is not only measured by celebrity status, but by the ability to build a lasting legacy while staying grounded. Even after all these years, fans still remember him as the unforgettable Pee Wee Morris, the fearless comedic spirit who helped define an entire era of 1980s teen comedy. Mark Herrier as Billy McCarty. Mark Herrier became widely recognized for his role as Billy McCarty in Porky's, portraying the calm and thoughtful observer who quietly held the group together amid the non-stop chaos surrounding him. At 27 years old, Herrier brought a grounded and mature presence to the wildly energetic teen comedy, giving Billy an emotional balance that helped the story feel more relatable beneath all the outrageous humor. While many characters in the film thrived on reckless behavior and loud personalities, Billy stood out as the steady voice of reason, the loyal friend who kept the group connected when everything threatened to spiral out of control. Long before Porky's turned him into a recognizable face of 1980s comedy, Herrier had already developed a deep passion for theater. Inspired after watching The Music Man as a child, he eventually walked away from the opportunity to study law in order to pursue acting full-time. He trained seriously for the stage and appeared in regional productions as well as Broadway performances, including Brigadoon and Macbeth. When Porky's exploded into a global hit, it became one of the defining breakthrough moments of his career and opened doors to both film and television opportunities. Following the success of the movie, Herrier continued building a steady career through projects such as Real Men and television appearances in MASH, Murder, She Wrote, and later Bosch. Beyond acting, he also expanded into producing and directing, allowing him to remain connected to storytelling from multiple creative angles, unlike many stars linked to cult comedies of that era. Herrier maintained a remarkably private and stable personal life. He married Rebecca Marie Gonzalez, and together they raised 2 sons while living quietly in California, carefully balancing family life with the entertainment industry. As of 2026, Mark Herrier is 72 years old and still alive with an estimated net worth of around $1.5 million. Though he never chased constant Hollywood headlines, his career reflects something far more enduring: consistency, dedication, and genuine passion for the craft of storytelling. Today, his journey stands as a reminder that behind the outrageous comedy of Porky's, some actors quietly built meaningful careers and lasting family lives while staying true to who they really were. Wyatt Knight as Tommy Turner. Wyatt Knight became one of the unforgettable comedic faces of Porky's when he took on the role of Tommy Turner, the loud, reckless troublemaker whose non-stop mischief constantly pushed the group deeper into chaos. At 26 years old, Knight brought explosive energy and wild humor to the screen, turning Tommy into one of the film's most unpredictable personalities. In a story already filled with outrageous teenage antics, Tommy stood out as the fearless instigator whose impulsive behavior and sharp comedic timing helped fuel many of the movie's most memorable moments. His over-the-top personality became a perfect reflection of the rebellious spirit that defined so many cult teen comedies of the early 1980s. Before Porky's made him widely recognizable, Knight had already been building a steady acting career through television work. But the massive success of the Porky's trilogy elevated his visibility and opened the door to years of consistent appearances throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Following the films, he appeared in television series including Family Ties, The Waltons' Chicago Hope, and Star Trek: The Next Generation, quietly maintaining a reliable career in Hollywood for decades. Behind the scenes, however, Knight's personal life became increasingly difficult. He experienced multiple marriages throughout his life, first to Jean C. Klein, then Harriet Bierholtz, with whom he had 2 children before eventually marrying Sylvina Knight in 1998. For a time, his life appeared more stable, but everything changed in 2003 when he was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The brutal treatments that followed, including radiation therapy and a bone marrow transplant, left both physical and emotional scars that never fully disappeared. After years of suffering, Wyatt Knight tragically died on October 25, 2011 at the age of 56. His body was discovered in a remote area of Maui, Hawaii, and authorities later confirmed he had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. At the time of his passing, his estimated net worth was around $1 million. Today, Wyatt Knight's story remains one of the most heartbreaking legacies connected to Porky's. Behind the laughter-wild comedy and rebellious energy that entertained millions was a man quietly fighting unimaginable pain. Though his life ended tragically, fans still remember him as Tommy Turner, the chaotic comedic spark whose unforgettable energy helped make Porky's a lasting cult classic. Roger Wilson as Mickey Jarvis. Roger Wilson became one of the coolest and most charismatic faces of Porky's when he portrayed Mickey Jarvis, the confident rebel whose sharp humor and fearless attitude constantly pushed the group into increasingly outrageous adventures. At just 25 years old, Wilson brought effortless swagger and natural charm to the role, making Mickey one of the film's standout personalities. In a movie packed with loud teenage chaos and over-the-top comedy, Mickey emerged as the classic cool guy of the group, bold, witty, and always ready to stir up trouble. His confidence and sarcastic edge helped fuel many of the film's funniest moments, turning him into one of the most memorable characters of the entire Porky's franchise. Long before Hollywood fame arrived, Wilson's life was already shaped by both privilege and hardship. Born in New Orleans into a wealthy family, he experienced tragedy early when his father died while he was still young. After inheriting part of the family fortune, he later studied at New York University before exploring acting, music, and screenwriting. Porky's became the breakthrough that launched him into worldwide recognition and established him as one of the defining young stars of 1980s teen comedy. Following the success of the film, Wilson appeared in projects including Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Thunder Alley, while also pursuing music as the lead singer of a New York rock band. Behind the scenes, however, his personal life often attracted just as much attention as his acting career. He married model Sean Casey in 1978 before divorcing in 1983, and over the years he became romantically linked to several famous women, including Christy Turlington, Elizabeth Berkley, Diane Lane, and Kelly LeBrock in 2002. Wilson made headlines after filing a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Leonardo DiCaprio following an alleged nightclub altercation connected to Elizabeth Berkley, though the case was eventually dismissed. As of 2026, Roger Wilson is 70 years old and still alive, living largely outside the Hollywood spotlight with an estimated net worth of around $1 million. Over time, he gradually stepped away from acting and reinvented himself through business ventures, wellness coaching, yoga, and the opening of his famous Aspen nightclub 7908 today. His story reflects far more than the rebellious bad boy image audiences once knew. It is the journey of a man who evolved through fame, controversy, reinvention, and personal growth while continuing to live life entirely on his own terms. Tony Ganios as Anthony Meet Tuparello. Tony Ganios became a cult film favorite after portraying Anthony Meat Tuparello in Porky's the towering strongman whose intimidating size and fearless attitude made him the unstoppable muscle of the group. At only 22 years old, Ganios brought a raw, physical presence to the screen that instantly made Meat one of the movie's most unforgettable characters. In a film filled with outrageous personalities and non-stop chaos, Meat stood out as the powerful enforcer whose larger-than-life energy gave the gang a feeling of complete invincibility. With his massive build, quiet toughness, and natural comedic timing, Ganios helped create one of the defining tough guy icons of early 1980s teen comedy. Before Porky's turned him into a recognizable cult star, Ganios had already made a strong impression in Hollywood with his role as Perry in The Wanderers, where his intimidating screen presence immediately caught audiences' attention. The success of Porky's pushed his career even further, and he later appeared in projects including Wise Guy, where he played mob lawyer Mike Mooch Cacciatore, as well as the action blockbuster Die Hard 2. Although he seemed perfectly suited for Hollywood tough guy roles, Ganios gradually stepped away from acting during the early 1990s and chose a far more private life outside the entertainment industry. Away from the cameras, Tony Ganios was known by friends and family as a deeply loyal and passionate man. He shared more than 3 decades of marriage with his wife Shirley Ganios, and largely stayed out of the public spotlight, dedicating much of his time to his interests in military history and martial arts. Unlike many former Hollywood stars, he embraced a quiet lifestyle and rarely sought attention after leaving the industry. Sadly, Tony Ganios passed away on February 18, 2024 in Manhattan, New York at the age of 64 after suffering heart failure linked to complications from a severe spinal cord infection. At the time of his passing, his estimated net worth was around $1 million. Today, Tony Ganios is remembered not only as the unforgettable Meat from Porky's, but also as a humble cult film icon, whose brief yet memorable Hollywood career left a lasting impression on generations of fans. Beneath the intimidating screen persona was a man who ultimately valued privacy, loyalty, and personal passion far more than fame itself. Subscribe to Legends of Classic and keep watching. There's more shocking truths about these iconic stars waiting next. Cyril O'Reilly as Tim Cavanaugh. Cyril O'Reilly left a distinct emotional mark on Porky's through his role as Tim Cavanaugh, a sensitive and conflicted teenager whose inner struggles added unexpected depth to a comedy defined by chaos and outrageous humor. At just 23 years old, O'Reilly portrayed the emotional core of the group, a character quietly carrying doubts, vulnerability, and personal tension beneath the surface of teenage rebellion. While others fueled the film's loud comedy, Tim stood apart as the most grounded and introspective presence, giving the story a rare sense of emotional realism that balanced its wild tone. Long before Porky's brought him widespread attention, O'Reilly had already committed deeply to the craft of acting. He trained at the prestigious American Academy of Dramatic Arts and studied under legendary acting coach Stella Adler, building a strong theatrical foundation. During this period, he performed alongside future talents such as Holly Hunter and Amy Madigan in stage productions, refining the emotional depth that would later define his screen performances. When Porky's became a commercial success, it introduced him to a wider audience and opened doors to a steady career in both television and film. Following the film's success, O'Reilly appeared in a variety of popular TV series including ER, The X-Files, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and Beverly Hills 90210. Beyond acting, he expanded his creative work into writing and producing, contributing to independent film projects such as Gemini Rising, proving his versatility behind the camera as well as in front of it. On a personal level, O'Reilly's early life included a formative experience living in Somalia when his father worked with the Peace Corps, an experience that broadened his worldview and influenced his storytelling perspective. Throughout his career, he maintained a relatively private lifestyle, avoiding major scandals and focusing instead on artistic growth and long-term creative development. As of 2026, Cyril O'Reilly is 68 years old and still active in the entertainment industry with an estimated net worth of around $1 million. His work reflects a rare balance between emotional honesty and steady professionalism, leaving behind a legacy built on consistency rather than spotlight. Over time, he has become a symbol of the kind of actor who grows with the industry, evolving, adapting, and still dedicated to the craft. Khaki Hunter as Wendy Williams. Khaki Hunter brought a rare sense of balance and authenticity to Porky's through her role as Wendy Williams, a confident, intelligent, and emotionally grounded young woman who offered a refreshing female perspective in a world dominated by chaotic male energy. At 26 years old in 1981, she stood out not through excess, but through clarity. Wendy was the character who could observe the madness around her and respond with wit, maturity, and quiet strength. In a film built on exaggerated teenage humor, her presence helped anchor the story, giving it emotional texture and a more relatable human side. Before Porky's Hunter had already achieved notable international recognition, earning critical acclaim for her performance in the German film Maiden's War, which brought her awards in both Germany and Spain. She continued to build her career with roles in films such as Roadie, Just the Way You Are, and Whose Life Is It Anyway, gradually establishing herself as a versatile actress capable of moving between comedy, drama, and independent cinema. Her casting in Porky's ultimately became the defining moment of her screen career, introducing her to a global audience. After completing the Porky's trilogy, Hunter made a surprising but intentional shift away from Hollywood in the early 1990s. Instead of continuing in entertainment, she redirected her focus toward environmental design and sustainable living. She became deeply involved in Earth-based architecture and later co-authored the influential book Earth Bag Building, which introduced practical techniques for eco-friendly construction and inspired sustainable building communities worldwide. As of 2026, Khaki Hunter is 71 years old and lives a quiet, private life in Moab, Utah, with an estimated net worth of around $950,000. She works as an architect, educator, and outdoor instructor, fully embracing a lifestyle connected to nature rather than fame. Her journey reflects a rare and deliberate departure from Hollywood success in favor of personal purpose and environmental contribution. Today, her legacy extends far beyond film. She is remembered not only as Wendy Williams, but as a woman who redefined success on her own terms, choosing impact, simplicity, and meaning over celebrity. Nancy Parsons as Beulah Ballbricker. Nancy Parsons delivered one of the most unforgettable authority figures in Porky's through her role as Beulah Ballbricker, a strict and intimidating physical education teacher whose iron discipline stood in constant opposition to the chaos created by the students. At 39 years old in 1981, she embodied the enforcer of the school system, a character defined by rigid control, sharp authority, and an unshakable belief in order. In a film built on teenage rebellion and outrageous humor, Ballbricker became the symbolic barrier between freedom and consequence, turning every confrontation into a moment of comedic tension. What made Ballbricker truly memorable was the way Parsons transformed strictness into comedy gold. Instead of a one-dimensional antagonist, she became a larger-than-life comedic villain whose exaggerated seriousness made her clashes with the students both absurd and iconic. Her presence elevated the humor of the film, creating some of the most recognizable running gags in the franchise and helping define the tone of teen comedies in the early 1980s. Before her breakthrough in Porky's, Parsons had already built a solid foundation in theater, studying drama at UCLA, and stepping away from acting for nearly a decade to focus on raising her children. She later returned to the stage with renewed passion, earning recognition including the Hugh O'Brien Acting Award. Her early screen work included appearances in films such as Motel Hell, which helped reintroduce her to Hollywood before her career-defining role arrived. Following the success of Porky's, she continued acting in both film and television, appearing in projects like Steel Magnolias and The Pretender, maintaining a steady presence throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Despite her growing recognition, she remained deeply private, prioritizing family life and maintaining a grounded existence away from Hollywood attention. Nancy Parsons passed away on January 5, 2001, at the age of 58 due to congestive heart failure in Wisconsin. As of 2026, she is remembered not only for her roles, but for the commanding presence she brought to every performance. Her legacy endures through Beulah Ballbricker, a character who turned discipline into comedy history, securing Parsons a lasting place in cult film memory as one of the most distinctive comedic authority figures of her era. Boyd Gaines as Coach Roy Brackett. Boyd Gaines appeared in Porky's as Coach Roy Brackett, a strict and disciplined physical education teacher whose role was defined by authority and control in a school constantly spiraling into chaos. At 28 years old in 1981, he represented the voice of order in a world driven by teenage rebellion and reckless humor, while the students fueled the film's wild energy. Coach Brackett stood on the opposite side of the spectrum, firm, serious and determined to maintain structure no matter how uncontrollable the situation became. Although not a comedic centerpiece, his presence was essential in shaping the film's dynamic. Every confrontation between Brackett and the students added tension and comedic contrast, reinforcing the classic authority versus rebellion formula that defined much of the Porky's universe. His character helped ground the school environment, making the chaos feel more structured and the humor more impactful. Before stepping into film, Gaines had already built a strong foundation in theater after graduating from the prestigious Juilliard School. That classical training would later define his career far more than his brief appearance in Porky's. Following the film, he transitioned almost entirely to stage performance, where he achieved extraordinary success on Broadway. Over the years, he earned 4 Tony Awards for his performances in acclaimed productions such as Gypsy, She Loves Me, The Heidi Chronicles, and Contact, establishing himself as one of the most respected stage actors of his generation. Alongside his theatre work, he also appeared in various television roles and later contributed to arts education, including teaching at the Manhattan School of Music. As of 2026, Boyd Gaines is 73 years old and still active in the performing arts with an estimated net worth of around $3 million. He is married to actress Kathleen McNenny, and together they have a daughter, maintaining a stable and private family life away from Hollywood's spotlight. Today, his legacy stands as a powerful reminder that a brief film role can be just the beginning of an extraordinary artistic journey, one that led him far beyond the screen and into the heights of Broadway excellence. Susan Clark as Cherry Forever. Susan Clark appeared in Porky's as Cherry Forever, a confident and alluring adult character whose presence brought a mature, provocative energy into the teenage chaos of the story. At 38 years old in 1981, she stood out with her elegance, intelligence, and controlled sensuality, becoming one of the most memorable grown-up figures in the film. Her character added a layer of adult humor and tension that helped define the movie's bold and controversial tone. Although not a central lead, Cherry Forever left a strong impression by representing the world of experience and desire, contrasting sharply with the reckless behavior of the younger characters. This balance made her scenes both humorous and striking, reinforcing the film's signature mix of comedy and risque storytelling. Before Porky's, Clark had already built a respected career in Hollywood with roles in films like Coogan's Bluff and Airport 1975, along with an Emmy-winning performance as Babe Didrikson Zacharias. After the film, she continued acting in television, most notably in Webster, before eventually retiring in 2007. As of 2026, she is 83 years old, living a quiet life with an estimated net worth of around $6 million. Her legacy remains that of a versatile and accomplished actress who balanced critical acclaim with popular appeal across decades. Looking back at the cast of Porky's 1981, the laughter that once defined a generation now echoes with something far quieter. Some are still here, aging away from Hollywood's spotlight, while others like Tony Ganios, Wyatt Knight, and Nancy Parsons have already left the stage, their lives ending far from the comedy that made them famous. What remains is a strange contrast. A film built on teenage chaos, now softened by time loss and silence. Maybe that's the real cost of making people laugh. You become immortal on screen, but painfully human off it. And sometimes the roles that made them icons were the ones they could never truly escape. Which story stayed with you the most, and why? And if you watch Porky's again today, do you still see a comedy or something quietly looking back at you from behind the laughter?